That's perfectly right. But in between, you have many other incidents, like we've got a global pandemic going on, and that can impact on this whole thing. So do you think they're a little bit sort of in fear, in awe of this president?
Not really. I think the president is going by the rules that he has to play with. So the election process, as we know, there are different interpretations into the constitution that we can make. But clearly the AG has given instructions to the president and the election commission as well. Holding of elections, the date, announcing the date and all those things, the power is not vested with the president.
Right.
It is all in the parliament. Yes, it is vested with the president only after 4.5 years. And the other power that is vested with the president right now is only to name the date for reconvene the parliament after the elections are held. Right. So those are the only powers that the president has.
Isn't it better to reconvene parliament now because of this current situation and carry on with this existing parliament, because anyway they've got, if it wasn't dissolved, they would have had time until August.
Faraz, but you have to look into the track record of this parliament as well. Now, last 4.5 years, we saw 3 years out of that 4.5-year term, there was a national unity government where both major parties, the SLFP and the UNP, were in coalition. They had the 2/3 majority. Every bill that they wanted in parliament was passed. The opposition was also there to support them, the TNA, the official opposition. The JVP also supported them in certain other bills and things that were presented.
Right.
But even with the national government that was in play for the last 4.5 years, we had to look at the track record, whether they did any good to the country or whether the country went backwards. So I don't think with the current set of MPs in this parliament that will give any benefit for the process that is going on right now.
Yes, but unfortunately, if we can only look at it in the cold neutrality of day, and that is that this parliament, whether we like it or not, had a term right up, a full 5-year term. It was finishing in around August, and although the provincial council elections was lost and the government of the day had quite a drubbing, and then again we had President Nandasena Gotabaya being elected as president. It can be indirectly a telling indictment, but nevertheless the law is the law is the law, and they could have gone on. And now that we are faced with this very unforeseen circumstance, one would have thought that the most appropriate thing to do would be keep the elections at bay for the moment, restart the economy, because we need to. There are 62% of the population unskilled workers. There are independent analysis of job figures, job losses of 1.1 million. So taking into all of that, why do you think that our president, your president as well, decided to go ahead and be focused? Is there some sort of pressure from the Prime Minister's side?
No, absolutely not. Faraz, now you have to look into why the Parliament was dissolved in the first place. As you correctly said, the Parliament term was to be, I think, 2nd of September was the 5-year term that was given to this Parliament. But the President had the authority to dissolve it after 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And when the President took over office in November 18th of November, the President requested all the MPs to coordinate and to give him the support to go into a fresh elections immediately.
Yeah.
But none of the MPs in the Parliament, the opposition back then, they were not ready to go in for Parliament elections. And they said that they will support them, the President and the new government, being in the opposition. But the latest bill, the last bill that came into Parliament was the appropriation bill back in February.
Yeah.
And since the appropriation bill was not passed in Parliament, the President decided the first day that he had the authority to dissolve it, on the 2nd of March, to go into that process. Because at that point, even at this point, Faraz, even if he reconvened this whole Parliament, the majority would be with the opposition. 136 members out of 225 member Parliament. And I think the President is doing a fantastic job right now.
I
The
hear
officials
you,
are doing that job.
and I hear
And
you.
we are not in a hurry to hold elections immediately.
Right.
When the time is right, when the health authorities say it's the right time to hold elections, it's safe to hold elections,
So
we can go to
do you
elections.
think that it's right, like today, with all the sort of limited activities, supposedly limited, there was quite a lot of traffic in Colombo. And I'm not sure that everyone was actually going to or from work.
No, you have to understand that Colombo is also the economic hub of Sri Lanka.
Yes, of
So
course.
everyone from all those districts that have been not working for the last 8 weeks, so they started making their way back into Colombo in the last couple of days, because there was no travel arrangements that were in place for the last 2 months for people who are in the industries, who are in the private sector, public sector, to come back to Colombo. So I think in the next 3-4 days we will see more ease of the traffic congestions, and we have to start somewhere. So
Thank you, thank you, Kanchan, and thank you for all the questions that's coming through by SMS on 0772 300 305. Kanchan, this is an interesting one. I was going to ask you this question myself, but I'm raising one that has been sent to us by a viewer. Shouldn't we be concerned that all the appointments to government high positions are from ex-army officers, the latest being the Secretary of the Ministry of Health? Aren't there other subject experienced people in civil society and so on?
Faraz, I think that question is wrong in first place. There were 7 appointments made on the previous day,
Yeah.
but 2 of them were officials that were within the army.
Right.
So, but the people who are appointed to those positions, they have a background in that same profession as well. Now, if you look at the former Major General Defense Secretary right now, Kamal Gunaratne,
Yeah.
he has actually knowledge on the defense activities.
Yeah.
And
That
and the
no
health
one's
secretary
arguing about that.
appointed
Yeah.
was not just a military man itself. He's a doctor by profession. He has a medical background. So he has been serving as a medical expert in the military as well.
But are you not concerned even in the slightest that there's an almost innocuous sort of happening as we go along, that Sri Lanka is getting more and more reliant on people with military experience?
As long as it's the right people for the right jobs, for us, I don't think that should be an issue, because we have seen even in the past, even in the last 4.5 years, 5 years, we have seen military people being appointed to certain positions, even in the education ministry. So there were a number of appointments made. As long as they have that capacity to work, if they have that professional background,
Yeah.
and they have that knowledge to work on the given task,
Yeah.
I don't see there's any problem doing so.
And here's a question about private sector or employment per se. There is a school of thought to say that upwards of 1.1 million jobs could well be at stake, redundancies. And then, as you pointed out earlier, when we were chatting before the start, that we have to also be mindful of the people who are returning to the country from overseas jobs and so on, as those countries also sort of shut down and tone it all down. Are you paying any attention in your discussions in your party? Are you all discussing this?
Absolutely, for us. Now, those
And what's
are
the plan
challenges.
to what's the actual plan?
Those are challenges that the president, the cabinet, and the task force has been looking into the last 6 weeks as well.
Yeah.
So any challenges that come our way out of this COVID-19 situation, we are not going to just say it's something. Those challenges are things out of. Those challenges should be faced well. So I think we are ready for that. And as I said earlier, the biggest challenge that we will have is the number of people returning back home from overseas.
Right.
So because I've heard so many people losing their jobs, even especially in the Middle Eastern sector. So and we can't probably match their salary levels in the local industries, but somehow we'll have to cater them. So our focus is going to be on that. We had to pump in a lot of money to the economy. We had to start going in the right direction. That's why we can't keep the country locked down, even in a situation like this. Now, as you said earlier, there is traffic congestion and everything happening in Colombo, but we can't keep the country closed and expect things to change overnight.
But 62% of the country is unskilled workers. They're reliant on sort of daily wage and so on. In that context, are you concerned that these people, the Samurdi people, for example, do you think that's a good figure, 5,000 rupees a month?
No, ideally, I think if you could have given a little bit more money to them, to anyone, that would have been an ideal situation. But we have to think about the situation we are in right now as well, because the financial situation of this country, as you know, has not improved over the last 5 years, or over the last 2 or 3 months. So everything that we had from our reserves have depleted over the last 5 years. Our debt levels have increased. Our exports have not increased. Our trade deficit has widened. So taking into those things into consideration, 5,000 right now at this time might not look a good number, but that is a number that the government can afford right now.
In that case, what about this business that the Prime Minister has written, saying that state ministers and so on can continue to use their vehicles? I don't mean to be petty, but I do mean to be focused.
No, Faraz, I saw that news article as well. Now, personally, I have given all my vehicles, all the things that I were given to be the state, just before signing in for nominations. Just like myself, I know a lot of other state ministers have given their vehicles and all their resources that were given to them by the state.
Why
as well.
is dear Minder Mama doing this then?
I know there are a few people who are still using them, but I think
it's patently unfair, can't you?
No, it is unfair. Now, I saw this in 2015 as well. Back in 2015, when the Yahapalana government came into power, they were the ones who kept this precedent. So they put in a cabinet paper that allowed not just the state ministers, but also the MPs who were in parliament at the time to use the government resources given to them. And that was also approved by the Election Commission. I have the letter with me because I was going through these things, because there were allegations leveled and people are questioning us as well whether we were using them. But clearly we can say that there are...
But we can't keep relying on going back to the past. Say, well, they did that, so
no,
what?
I too agree with you. I too agree. I don't necessarily believe that the state minister should be, or someone who is not in power right now, the cabinet members of the cabinet and the president, they can use the state resources because they're still a caretaker government. But everyone else, my personal view is that should not be using them. I personally have given all my state resources that I have received.
Were you a bit surprised when Dr. P.B. Jayasundara wrote that letter to his colleagues in the public service saying, can you give a donation so we can pay the May salaries?
No, I was not surprised, because P.B. Jayasundara himself, back in April, gave away his salary and his allowances and everything for the COVID fund. But making a request, I thought, was taken out of context. But the message should have been clear, one thing. But it was a personal plea that was done. I think anyway, even before the plea was given, I think a lot of public sector workers had already decided to give away their day's salary or even a month's salary. Certain public sector workers, I know even the plantation ministry, most of the staff there donated 1 day's salary back in April. So there were people doing that. I don't see any problem making that plea, because we are not in a perfect economy. We don't have the resources to do that. He had the right to make a plea because it's not an official request.
But even this 5,000, somebody's pointing out that this 5,000 rupees for the month, even that, we continue to get reports from our correspondents around the country that there are protests and there's unhappiness that even this 5,000, however inadequate it is, that too has got some challenges. Why is that?
For us, there will always be challenges, but you have to look in the big picture. Now, 7.2 million families. Now, there's only 5.8 million families in figures in the Sri Lankan Census Bureau.
Yeah.
But there are families who are living in the same household, two,
Yeah.
three families living in the same household.
Yeah.
If you take into consideration with the public sector workers, 7.2 million had benefited over the last 2 months with the public servants' salary, as well as the 5,000 rupee fund that was given to them over the last 4 weeks. So there are people who have received it.
There are. I'm not saying they haven't.
No, there could be.
But I'm saying that there are continuing challenges. That's
there
what I'm trying to
could
say.
be people. Now I know for a fact that people probably doesn't need that 5,000 rupees.
Yeah.
Have also applied for the 5,000 rupees.
Yes, I know. That too.
Just because someone else in their area gets that 5,000.
Unfortunately, Kanchana, with this time slot, we don't have the indulgence of stretching our times here. We've already lost some at the beginning to the news. But thank you very much for being with us on the program and for being as open as you usually are.
Thank you, Faraz.
Thank you, and I'm glad to see that there's some things that are static. That's very good. Thank you. And that's the way it is. So on Newsline, take care. Have a great evening ahead of you. And of course, God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.